everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast, where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And welcome to this week's weekly recap, where we have one piece of good news, and then the rest is not ideal. But we're here nonetheless. That's where the rain, shine, or anything in between comes from. But we're just going to dive right into volleyball, then talk about soccer, and then, of course, the wacky segment of the week. So let's just dive straight into volleyball with the one big dub of the week, and that is up against the University of Nebraska-Omaha in the debut of Morgan Family Arena, or as Connor affectionately calls it,
the morgue.
It's not just you.
I can't say I came up with that. I did not come up with that. That is stolen from Twitter.
Yeah. It's growing on me. But this was a 3-0 Wildcat victory in order to open up the festivities for the next, hopefully, very long time in Morgan Family Arena. And it was a closer match than I think I realized when we were there. First off, review of the new arena, really nice. Students showed out for the first game. Were not very good at swag surfing, but tried their best.
They did a lot better in the second game, for what it's worth.
Really?
Yes, they did. They seemed to coordinate a little better. Maybe they had a plan going in, but it was definitely superior to the first game.
They had a plan to execute. But in this first game, of course, you have your leaders in kills, which was Aaliyah Carter with 14, Shaylee Myers with 7, Katie Fernholtz with 5, Lauren Hinkle had 2 aces, Liz Grigorski and Sydney Bolding each had 1. Blocks, Katie Fernholtz had 5, Shaylee Myers had 4, and Cindy Bolding had 3. Izzy
Szolszewski
had 25 assists, Liz Grigorski had 3, and Mackenzie Morris had 3. Mackenzie Morris also had 20 digs, Aaliyah Carter with 10, and Lauren Hinkle with 7. Again, this wasn't like a pretty dominant victory despite it being 3-0. It was actually pretty close during most of the sets. So I did walk away kind of feeling nice about it, though. Like this was a sort of victory that you're like, yeah, I'm happy that we could christen the new arena with a W.
Yeah, it was nice to get out with a win, a 3-0 win, even if the sets were close. And they kind of got progressively closer as we went. The first one, there was a ton of momentum going. I think we kind of tired ourselves out with that. But yeah, I think it was, everyone got a bit closer. At least that's how it felt. But we were still able to prevail in all of them. And we had a few people look really good. Leah Carter looked like she was getting back to her old self. Fernholtz and Bolding looked really great. Szolszewski had a fantastic game. I remember in this one. Just a lot of really good sets. A few huge digs. A couple of kills too. And then a good service ace. She kind of all around, I think, maybe had the most impactful game, even if it didn't really show up on the stat sheet as much. And then, of course, Sydney Bolding, 6'4", able to get a ton of blocks. Katie Fernholtz, a ton of blocks as well. Then Morris, as always, getting a ton of digs on that back line. But all in all, this was a nice showing for the volleyball squad. Nice to, as you said, christen the new arena. And hopefully it's the site of many wins to come and a part of a growing and developing program.
Yeah. But here's where kind of the downside starts. The Nebraska game, which we'll preface this by saying Nebraska's a very, very good team. I think they were ranked number 4 at the time of playing them. And we held our own, as in I'm not on the team. K-State held their own in the first set, 25-21. We did end up getting blanked totally, though, like from winning a set. So the next set was 25-15 and then 25-19. I'm happy with, well, I'm not going to say I'm truly happy because we lost, but sets 1 and 3 at least are somewhat encouraging that we were able to hang with them. It just seemed like every time that we got momentum, it immediately was just shoved right back in our face.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'd characterize us as ever even having momentum. To me, in the game, it felt like the most we'd ever really be able to rally was maybe 2 or 3 points, whereas Nebraska was able to get a few moments in every set where it really felt like they had control and they forced us to take a timeout and regroup. And we didn't really have many, if any, of those moments. Nebraska was just too talented and just too good across the board to fully stop them from scoring at every point. So we just didn't have the horses to keep up. I didn't realize this. We've only beaten Nebraska 4 times in volleyball ever. I did not realize that the record was that disparate. I knew Nebraska was good historically. I did not realize just how good Nebraska was. So it was not an unexpected result, but the crowd was fantastic. The students were super into it. Capacity, crowd. I was really happy with that. There were Nebraska fans there still that apparently some of them did buy season tickets just to get tickets for this game, which I'm glad that they're going to be wasted for the rest of the year. So this was an unfortunate result. Would have liked to hang with them a little bit better than we did, show a bit more development on that front. But it's early in the year, and I think the 2 games this weekend are good measuring sticks, at least for a while.
Yeah. Which, speaking of, the 2 games this weekend are in the Lipscomb tournament, which is still impossible to read if you go to the K-State Sports website because it's yellow on white, against UT Martin and Lipscomb, both of which are going to be in Nashville, Tennessee, in Allen Arena. One of which is at Friday at 6. The next is Saturday at 6. One's on ESPN+. I imagine the other one is probably radio broadcast, probably smaller on the call.
I have no idea. I truly don't.
Well, either way. Either way, support the Alleycats. Now we get to talk a little bit about the Soccer Cats and a game that I think I blocked from my memory because I watched maybe, 20 minutes of it and then decided that was enough. No, I watched 30 minutes of it and then decided that was enough. It was the Nebraska K-State soccer game. It was 4-0 victory in favor of Nebraska. All 4 goals scored in the first half, in the first period.
Yeah, this was not a great game for K-State, capping off a pretty bad day against Nebraska across the non-revenue sports. Nebraska just went on an absolute tear in about a 25-minute point of time. From the 15th minute up to the 40th minute, they scored all 4 of their goals, 2 of them coming from Eleanor Dale. Just pretty abysmal from K-State defensively. And K-State still managed to get up 14 shots and 7 on target, but that paled in comparison to 30 from Nebraska and 11 on target. So at least on that point, you would think K-State would have been able to get at least 1 or 2 home. They had a couple of good chances, but they never really had a shot in this one once the goal started hitting the back of the net for Nebraska. This is... there was an encouraging start to this year for the soccer team, but now it's
disappeared.
It seemed to have gone backwards right now, and it's really disappointing after a fairly encouraging start, but we've now not scored since August 27th, I believe.
Yeah.
Or since August 24th, I mean.
Yeah, we have not scored a goal since August 24th, so we have not scored a goal in about 2 weeks, which is not what you want to see.
Yeah, and on top of that, we've only scored in 2 of our matches all season, so we're scoring in bunches, so I guess that means at some point we're going to put 7 up on somebody, but I'd rather just disperse them a little more evenly.
Yeah. I was looking at the exhibitions, my fault. But, yeah, it's not... Nebraska soccer isn't bad. They're, at the time of this, after this game, they were 5-0-1. It's like, they're not bad, but like...
Yeah, they're a good squad, but if you really want to start taking next steps, this is the sort of squad I think that you need to at least be competitive with. I mean, this is kind of a step backwards. This is what I would have expected from K-State soccer back in 2018 or 2019. It's 2023 now, and I think we should have higher standards than this result. Pretty embarrassing, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to describe it, is it's embarrassing. The next game was less embarrassing, but still not good.
There are ways that you could characterize this as being even more embarrassing.
Yeah, I remembered that. This was a 1-0 loss for K-State up against Memphis, who went into this game 4-0-1. Um, Jeez, man, there's only one stat you need to read.
Yeah, the shot statistics. Memphis put up 28 shots, 8 of them on target. K-State had 3 shots this entire game, 2 of them on target. And that's it. Pretty horrible. Just no way to get around it. Memphis was ranked 16th. I don't care. That is an unacceptable differential in shots between teams. It's an unacceptable performance. It's miraculous that we only gave up 1 goal. Credit to our goalkeeper, Murphy Sheaf. I don't know how she managed to only allow 1 shot. It's at the back of the net. But that's just horrible from K-State. Especially, I'd imagine, the midfield and back line to allow that volume of shots is pretty unbelievable. After we had a fairly solid start to the season, I get that Memphis now 5-1-0. You know, they're a quality squad, but we're supposed to be taking steps forward as a program, and this doesn't evidence that at all. And if we're going to be playing in games like this, we need to find the back of the net and at least get a draw. You know, if we're still this far behind in talent, we need to at least be able to get draws. We can't continue to be in matches like this and not get anything out of it.
Yeah, no, it's just not sustainable. And I know that, like, we've talked about, the number one thing that we want from this season is improvement. And I don't think we've walked back on that standard at all yet. It's just that there hasn't been improvement. Like, there were signs of improvement after, like, the first 3 regular season games. And ever since then, it has been a backslide. Like, a really, really painful and bad backslide.
Yeah, that Creighton match, drawing 0-0 with a not-so-great Creighton team. Ever since then, it's really been downhill. And we're kind of on we're on a 4-game streak now of just really poor form as a club. We have an upcoming match this Sunday against Oral Roberts that needs to be a get-right game before we start Big 12 play. Because there's not going to be any opportunities, again, for tune-up matches. And I say that, I don't even know how good Oral Roberts is. They might be quality. I'm just not sure. But the soccer team has not lived up to the expectations I was hoping for them to take this year. I really did think that they were going to take a step, and it's not really seeming like that's going to be something that happens, at least not at this point. But Oral Roberts, they're 1, 2, and 3 as of now. If we don't take care of business against Oral Roberts, then there's going to be a significant concern.
Yeah, we've got problems if that happens. Like, and I think it would be different to me personally if just, like, watching these games, like, it would be different to me if, you know, watching these games, it would be like, oh, you know, it's just tough luck here, tough luck there. You know, like, sometimes things don't fall your way. No. The team has gotten consistently worse. And I think it has to do... I don't know enough about soccer to say it's like a play style thing. But it's just a lot of the upside that we were showing earlier in the season, sort of playing a form of bully ball, like hyper-physical soccer, which was working, it just doesn't seem to be working anymore, and now it's backfiring on us because we can't defend properly.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is that we just don't have enough athletes on the field to really play the style that we want. I think that we do have athletes on the roster. I think that we have some good players. Like, I think that Jasmine Brown is really good. I think Murphy Sheaf is good at goalkeeper. I think we have a few others that are pretty good. But there's just not enough consistency right now. And I don't really trust the squad to be able to deal with most teams on a physical level. I mean, I think that much is evident whenever you're giving up 30 shots. We gave up 58 shots in 2 consecutive games. That's pretty horrible.
That's not what you want. That's
Yeah.
In fact, that is the opposite of what you would like.
Yeah, that's bottom of the table stuff for K-State. And if that's what happens, we're definitely not making the postseason tournament if this level of play continues.
No. And that would be a step back. And like we said, goal is always improvement. But the Oral Roberts game will hopefully be a get-right game before we go ahead and play Cincinnati that September 14th, that Thursday. And then you start a really important road slate against Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and TCU. That'll be really, really important.
Yeah. I don't really know what to expect from those teams. I know TCU has historically been pretty good. Oklahoma, I think, has been really up and down, and I don't know a lot about Oklahoma State. But yeah, that stretch of 3 straight road games is going to be really difficult. But it's key for us. We have to at least look conscious, which is such a low standard to hold. But we need to be at least putting up a decent and solid fight in those matches. Because, I mean, my expectations are really starting to take a downward turn because of the disappointing play the last few weeks. But then again, last year, every time that we said it was over, they would get
They'd be so back.
Yeah, they'd get some miraculous result and be so back. So who's to say it was actually going to happen? I'll try and be a little less negative, I guess, to end it here, because they have faced a ton of adversity in the past. They've pretty much faced nothing but adversity for their whole existence. So if anything, they are used to that. But another way to look at it, I guess, is the only way from here is up. Can't really get much lower, I think, than how we've been the last few games. But the Oral Roberts game might be a well-timed game if we can take advantage of the opportunity that we're given. We'll see.
Yeah. All I'm going to say is for every it's so over, there's an invincible we're so back. Hopefully.
I really hope so.
But we told you it'd kind of be a short one this week for the weekly recap. But, of course, now we have everyone's favorite part, the wacky segment of the week, where this week's question is, if you could delete one K-State memory or event from ever happening, which event would you choose? And this does not change the result of the event. It just deletes the event from history.
I think for me, I think I might say the 2012 Baylor game. Mainly because, I mean, if that game doesn't exist and we still beat Texas, then we're undefeated at the end of the year. If that's the logic that we're working with. Because my knee-jerk reaction is at times to say, like, some of those Elite Eight games, but then we just wouldn't move on because the game wouldn't have existed. There were other games that happened after the Baylor game, so I guess that's what I'll roll with. I know some people will probably say the Big 12 championship in '98. I wasn't alive when that happened, so I can't say I have a memory of it. But I'll roll with the Baylor game in 2012. I think that's a pretty good answer for a lot of K-State what-ifs. So
yeah, Connor, I think you know my answer.
I wouldn't assume that. I have no idea what you're going to say.
It's the 2020 Iowa State game.
Oh, yeah. I guess I should.
Because that game shouldn't have been played to begin with.
Yeah.
And nothing was gained or lost. Well, nothing was gained by that game happening. But a lot was lost.
Yeah, that was definitely a regrettable one.
No, I don't think it was forgettable. I was miserable. It was a miserable game.
It was a figure of speech. But
yeah, I'm sorry.
I have nothing else to say. We've really put a light mood on this episode.
Yeah. We sure have. But you know what? You know what matters? Next week will be better.
How do you know?
Because it can't get much worse. Kadarius Toney isn't going to drop 6 passes today or next week.
Kadarius Toney is not a K-State wide receiver, so we don't have to worry about that either. So,
yeah, we just timed this episode. Anyway, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us just about anywhere at Aggieville Alleycats. If you want to email us, we're AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at ACEdwards00.
I am at Connor Baltazar, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store. Link in our Twitter and Spotify bio, but if you don't want to look there, it's AggievilleAlleycats.myspreadshirt.com. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast, where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.